Throughout the process of researching and engaging in the art therapy media niche, I've used an autoethnographic approach due to its basis in reflective storytelling, which allows research to be highly engaging and self-directed. During this podcast, which accompanies my final research report on my digital artifact, I will be explaining how I use autoethnography to successfully capture the integral features of the art therapy niche and its audience experience. Within my last blog post, Key Epiphanies, I explained the key ethnographic skills I would use within my research. These included approaching, conceptualizing, contextualizing, mapping, narrowing, reflexivity, sensitivity, and flexibility. I expanded on these skills by briefly explaining how I utilize them and the potential research questions which I would answer. This provided me with solid room to jump into research while maintaining direction and focus. While some of the questions I impose have been answered in my blog post, I want to further expand on them within this audio section. While my initial research involved delving deep into the art therapy academic sources, which allowed me to understand the core elements of art therapy in its professional sense, giving me a thorough understanding of the ethical considerations of practicing art therapy without relevant qualifications and experience, which went on to shape how I directed my art therapy presence towards the non-therapeutic/wellness space. Art therapy initially seemed like a straightforward artistic practice. Without this research, I would have been completely unprepared when creating content, and this would have isolated the social utility of my DA. My initial research allowed me for a degree of immersivity to follow. My DA is a user-centered research project analyzing the use of art therapy in positively impacting mental health well-being for viewers. I explore the niche through a primarily non-therapeutic viewpoint. However, through analyzing content from art therapist creators, I can recognize the difference between the two content groups. Through the act of contextualizing the art therapy media niche, I pose the question, how is art therapy viewed in the niche? Is it considered more therapy-based or artist-based? Why are viewers interested in the content if it's accessible through a therapist? Through posing this question, I ultimately revealed the practicability of art therapy online. Art therapy online is either used in a non-formal / self-directed sense, even when it's posed by an art therapist creator, or if it directs viewers to actual art therapy providers in a therapy-based setting through information-based content. However, most videos are based in this self-directed setting. This has its own ethical disadvantages due to its lack of connection with the therapist and client, which would usually be highly individualized and focused on improved mental condition, which is where I emphasize the importance of non-therapy based content in the niche, focusing instead on self-reflection rather than telling others what to feel. Art has been the subject of countless studies and academic works detailing the insights into its connection with therapy. There is no doubt that art has a massive positive effect when combined with therapy. This is backed up by my research into the media niche's existing creators and their audience reactions to content, detailing the positive effect art has on their own emotional outlets and how it's useful in daily life. Art expresses abstract emotions, it calms and rationalizes. It's a tool for self-expression and reflection. Representational art reflects the gratitude people have for the world around them. Art can connect with the inner child buried within us, allowing people to open up to deep-rooted thoughts and emotions. I want to emphasize the duality of art, its catharsis nature, and the deep-rooted impact in human culture, which allows us to pass on knowledge and ideas. Conducting my autoethnographic research made it imperative that I adhere to ethical and moral guidelines, both in the therapy-based and research settings. I did not want my own biases to impact my findings. Another factor is the limits of my research platforms. I knew from the beginning my sources of analysis, the audience I would gather for my research would be limited to the algorithm and being a new creator. This would give me a heavily biased research pool, which would make it imperative I also focus on other creators as an outside research source. Throughout the course of conducting research through my DA, I was tested on several fronts. For the capacity of flexibility, I found that this was one of the most important skills in ethnography due to the nature of research being conducted. There were factors outside of my control which I had to review and change to keep myself on the right path. In reflecting on how I maintained my flexibility, this was not always able to be done. I went into more depth in my last blog post on Key Epiphanies. I had extreme trouble in the beginning to understand the best paths to producing videos, as I didn't have the standard equipment used by other creators in the niche. For example, my first video was filmed without audio. I was planning a voiceover separately. However, the video file was too large to upload onto my PC, and thus the video was scrapped. I recently decided I didn't want to waste the footage, so I uploaded it as a silent reflective tutorial, keeping the themes of my niche. You could hear the brush strokes, the water on the paper, and outside noises, which I believe still engages with the self-reflective nature of art therapy. Turning what would have been a failure into an achievement is why flexibility is so important. In presenting the key findings from my autoethnographic research, I see that art therapy not only has a positive impact on the mental health practices of the niche's participants, but it's an advocate for positive societal change, allowing people to be more open about wellness, artistic passions, and coping mechanisms. It's a niche which has greater value than simply making art. If these videos allow people to seek out actual therapy, I believe society will be greater for it, making the efforts of my work seem almost minute in the greater scheme of this practice. Thank you for listening to this podcast and for joining me on this ethnographic journey. Please read my blog post for the full scope.